Hi guys, welcome to EduTap. This is another video for PIB articles published from 25th to 28th Feb 2018. These articles are important for RBI Grade B and NABARD Grade A and Grade B exams. We have 6 articles for our discussion in this video. We will be discussing we will begin with International Conference on Sustainable Biofuels. Then we will discuss about viral load test for people living with HIV/AIDS. Then the region for railways and the second project of Swajal Yojana in Rajasthan. Then we will discuss about the champion sectors in services and the action plan for it. And then we will discuss that Cabinet has approved the continuation of PM Employment Generation Program. International Conference on Sustainable Biofuels. It was a 2-day event from 26 to 27 Feb 2018 and it was held in New Delhi. This was organized by Department of Biotechnology of Government of India on behalf of Mission Innovation and Biofuture platform. So you need to keep in mind that it was organized in Delhi and the biotech department organized this particular conference. Now before we move on, we will discuss briefly about what are biofuels and then what are sustainable biofuels. So biofuels are the fuels that have been produced through use of you can say contemporary biological processes. The difference between fossil fuels and biofuels, we need to understand the difference. The fossil fuels are formed or you can say produced by geological processes. The dead remains of plants and animals are buried into the geological formations, and over a period of thousands of years, because of heat and pressure that those dead particles feel, they eventually turn into fossil fuels like coal, petroleum, etc. So this is called the geological process through which the fossil fuels are produced. But the biofuels are different. They utilize the biological material, but in the present day. Contemporary means in the present day they are decomposed and the gases are released, and those gases are utilized as energy source for different purposes, for example running the vehicles or for electricity production, etc. This is the major difference between the biofuels and the fossil fuels. Fossil fuels release greenhouse gases into the environment when they are utilized, and therefore cause the climate change. So all over the world, climate change is a major issue that we need to tackle, which is a kind of survival threat to the entire living species on the planet Earth. So we need to tackle this, and in order to tackle climate change, we need to take steps to reduce the emissions of greenhouse gases into the environment, and therefore we need to reduce the utilization of fossil fuels. So one such alternative to substitute fossil fuels is the biofuels. Biofuels, for example, we can utilize ethanol that is being produced from sugar cane. It is a biofuel and it is being extensively used in Brazil, which is a kind of leader in utilization of ethanol made from sugar cane, called ethanol fuel, and it has been estimated that because of utilization of this ethanol, Brazil has been able to reduce a huge amount of greenhouse gases into the environment, as compared to if it has used the fossil fuels in place of ethanol produced from sugarcane. So there are many benefits that we derived from biofuels instead of fossil fuels, and therefore efforts are being made by the global community to encourage the adoption of fossil fuels at a global level and at accelerated pace, so that we quickly develop technologies, we quickly develop the ways to utilize the biofuel energies or biofuel sources properly to order to replace the fossil fuels in near future. And Mission Innovation is one such organization, one such global initiative that tries to make global clean energy innovation quickly. That tries to make that the global access to clean energy technologies and innovations is increased, and their access to technologies, such clean technologies, increase, so that it is easier to adopt those clean energies for the benefit of the climate, for the benefit of the whole global community, because we will be able to tackle the climate change and also to utilize the available resources that are present in terms of agricultural waste. Now we will discuss how we will going to use here the agricultural waste. Now coming back to the conference, here we need to learn that who has organized this, where it has been organized, and a new New Delhi Declaration on Sustainable Biofuels has been signed by the various dignitaries that have come to attend this particular conference. Now coming on to what is sustainable biofuels. Sustainable biofuels, biofuels we have understood. By sustainable biofuels means a fuel from which we can make biofuel on a sustainable basis, that is on long term basis. It should not be short term, that it is utilized for a few years and then it goes, then the source is vanished. It should not be like that, but there should be a sustainable source and sustainable manner in which the biofuel could be made and utilized for the various purposes. So this is called a sustainable biofuel. An example here of it we have just discussed, the ethanol made from the sugarcane, and it is being practiced in Brazil since decades, and now it's just a common practice to mix petrol and ethanol, or to only use ethanol in place of petrol in the vehicles run in Brazil. We also here need to know an important aspect here is the generations of biofuels. Biofuels have developed over a period of time, and just like we have computer generations, we have biofuel generations. So the very first time we utilized food crops for making biofuels. We utilize the sugar cane, we utilize the palm oil, the rapeseed, etc. To make it utilized as fuel, biofuel. Then because these are the food crops, so the need was felt that why we are compromising the food crops for petrol or for such kind of utilization, because food is much more necessary than the energy requirements, the electricity or the petroleum energy requirements. So this need was felt, and then in second stage we began to utilize non-food crops. For example, the agricultural waste that I have mentioned, the agricultural waste, the straws, wood, etc. Those were the non-food items, crops were grown, or kind of waste that were being utilized for the generation of biofuels. Then over the time, with development in technology, third generation came, which was basically to utilize algae, which is an organism that is generally found in waters, and hence it has been found through various innovations, or you can say the discoveries, that algae could be utilized to produce biofuels. So there are certain fuels that can be made from the utilization of algae. And now there has been a fourth generation which are using a step forward to utilize new things. For example, the flue gases, the solar to fuel, or are in making of next level of biofuels. For example, there have been artificial leaf has been developed by scientists, through which they can convert solar energy into electricity directly. It mimics the normal leaf of a plant, in which the solar energy is utilized to prepare food for plants, but in artificial leaf, the solar energy could be utilized to create electricity. So these are the new innovations that are being taking place in the field of biofuels, and are referred to as the fourth generation biofuels. So you need to learn, it can be asked that what comprised of the first generation biofuels, what the second, third and the fourth. So you should learn them properly. This is an important area from exam point of view. Next we have viral load test for people living with HIV AIDS has been launched. The government has taken an initiative to provide free of cost viral load testing for about 12 lakh people living with HIV on treatment in the country, and this test will be provided at least once in a year. So this is a major step have been taken to tackle the problem of HIV AIDS in the country. Now we shall understand what is the viral load test. This is a test which measures how much HIV virus is there in your body or the patient's body. So it calculates how much virus is loaded into a patient's body, and it helps to know a number of things from the report results. For example, it knows that helps the doctor that what's happening to your infection. Like if the load is high, then the virus is active, very active, and it is making more and more replicas of its virus, and the infection of HIV virus is increasing. So it indicates that. And if the load test the viral load comes on lower side, then it is that the treatment is working properly, and it has been able to suppress the virus to a manageable proportion. However, it doesn't indicate that the virus has totally eliminated from the body, but yes, the amount of virus has decreased to a good level that with proper utilization of medicines over a longer period could help to tackle the disease to live a normal life. So these are the positive points via which this test could help the persons living with HIV to know their status of treatment, to know their status of infection, and proceed the treatment in that manner. So the various benefits from this treatment, there will be a proper monitoring of treatment, and it will be effective for the patients after taking antiretroviral therapy. This is the name of the treatment for HIV AIDS. disease. Next, it will help the medical officers to detect if there is failure on first line treatment early, and it will also help the patient from developing resistance to drugs. It happens because if the virus is very active, it will the drugs given to the patient to cure the disease will become ineffective, because the virus is very active and it is able to mutate and change itself to save itself from these drugs. So this is called as getting you can say developing resistance from drugs, that the virus develops mutates itself, changes its RNA or DNA you can say, and because of that changes it is able to surpass the drug which was meant to kill that virus. So via this particular test the doctors are able to detect such kind of resistance early, and they can then effectively change the direction of their treatment in order to cure the disease properly. The next benefit from this initiative will be that the mission Sampark in tracking the person to follow up people living with HIV will be strengthened, because sometimes because of social stigmas the people don't come forward that they are suffering from this particular disease. They don't get the treatment because if they are exposed to the public then they will face the social stigma, or sometimes they leave the treatment in between because of it can be causing some mental stress to them. So it is very important to track those people living with HIV, and to make sure that they complete their treatment properly so that the virus is suppressed in their body and eventually they are able to live a normal life, and the further propagation of virus from person to person can be prohibited. So these are the main benefit of the scheme, and what does a viral load test means, and it is associated with the disease of HIV/AIDS. Next, another important thing from exam point of view you can say is the 90-90-90. Sometimes it is being asked what is mean by 90-90-90. So this is a strategy to tackle HIV/AIDS or to control the spread of HIV/AIDS. What does 90-90-90 means? Here 90 means 90% of all the person who are living with HIV should know their status, and out of those 90% who know their status, out of those 90 should get the treatment, that represents the second 90 should get the antiretroviral therapy, that is the treatment for HIV/AIDS. And out of those who are getting the antiretroviral therapy, 90% of those should have proper treatment and will have a viral suppression. So this will eventually help to control the spread of HIV/AIDS disease in the globe, and it is a program of UNDP. This 90-90 strategy is a program of UNDP, and these 390 goals are to be achieved by 2020. So you should know properly about this strategy. Also in the year 2017 Government of India has taken an initiative that the antiretroviral therapy ART will be available to all the persons living with HIV, so that the treatment could be started earlier and the virus transmission could be stopped at an appropriate level, so that the propagation of disease could be stopped at community level. So this is an initiative by the government to make the treatment available to everyone, and now the latest is the free of cost viral load test is being conducted by the government free of cost. Next we have Srijan for railways. The term Srijan stands for Station or Rejuvenation Initiative through Joint Action. This is the full form of Srijan that you must keep in mind from exam point of view, because in exam there have been questions in which the full forms have been asked, and secondly sometimes they ask what does R stands in Srijan. There are certain questions which are of this type as well. So when you know the full form of Srijan, only that you will be able to answer such type of questions. So the full form of Srijan should be remembered properly. And what is Srijan? It is basically a competition to develop stations, for improvement in stations or developing the station on various aspects. So it is basically about the idea. You have to generate an idea for the development of railway stations, around 600 plus railway stations to be developed by Indian Railways, and this particular contest is being organized by Indian Railways Station Development Corporation Limited. It is a competition for the logo and the tagline. These two things are to be made by the competitors under this Srijan program or the competition. The worthy ideas or the winners, the ideas of winners will be incorporated in the designs, and beside there has been a cash prize of 75,000 rupees. For the first round of international design competition, 3 stations have been selected, that is Gwalior, Nagpur and Baya Panahali. So the first round has been completed, and the second stage of this competition is to be completed by 31st March 2018. So here you need to first remember the full form of Srijan. What is Srijan, which is a competition, whom is organizing this competition, and what are the main things that are to be made in this competition, that is the logo and the tagline. Next we have Cabinet has approved the action plan for champion sectors in services. This has been an initiative of Department of Commerce, which has asked to take initiatives for the 12 identified champion sectors in the services sector. The 12 sectors are here mentioned here. You need to learn the all 12 sectors of the services, champion sectors of services, and here the action plan is to increase the competitiveness of services, of these 12 services in the global market. As we know that India is already a leader in services, and we earn a lot of foreign exchange through export of services from Indian land. So we need to further improve the competitiveness of services in the global market, and also to make our efforts more intensified for certain kind of neglected, you can say, or some lagging sectors in the services sector. So the government has identified 12 such sectors called as champion sectors in the services, and a fund of rupees 5,000 crore have been proposed for this, and the government has asked the respective ministries and departments to come up with respective action plans for these 12 subsectors, so that proper efforts can be made to develop and realize their potential, and their competitiveness in the global market could be increased. So here you need to learn the 4 champion sectors of services sector, and the major idea behind the action plans for these sector is to increase the competitiveness. and of course the initiative of Department of Commerce. Another important decision taken by the cabinet recently is the continuation of Prime Minister Employment Generation Program. It has been continued beyond 12th plan for 3 years from 2017-18 to 2019 to 2020, and a total of rupees 5,500 crore have been allocated for the period of 3 years. We will know about the scheme, which is a major credit linked subsidy program, which is basically for self-employment generation. And under the scheme, how it functions is that loan is being provided from banks, and a part of that loan to the bank from the banks is given by the government as subsidy. For example, if you need a total of 20 lakhs for making a manufacturing unit for self-employment, for this 10% you have to manage yourself, and the remaining will be given by the bank and the government of India. So out of the remaining part, the government of India's part will be around 15 to 20% depending upon the category to which the beneficiary belongs. For example, he belongs to the normal group or from the BPL family or the northeastern states. Depending upon that, the subsidy percentage is variable, and the remaining is provided by the bank as loan. So ultimately the person gets the total amount, and this particular scheme is being implemented by Ministry of MSME since 2008-9, and in order to encourage self-employment generation, the government has still decided to continue the scheme for further 3 years, and it has been estimated that it will be going to benefit 15 lakh persons. And for the scheme, Khadi and Village Industries Commission is the national nodal agency that is working to implement the scheme. However, at state level there are Khadi and Village Industries Board, and at district level there are district industry centers that are implementing this particular scheme. Other than the continuation of this particular scheme, a few more changes have been made in order to make sure that this scheme is properly implemented. So we are going to discuss those changes in bit detail in the following slides. So these are the changes that have been made currently by the government along with the continuation of this scheme. The first one is that when the beneficiary is now able to take a second loan of up to rupees 1 crore by upgrading the subsidy of 15%. That is, earlier only one-time loan was to be provided to the beneficiary, but now a second loan could be given to the beneficiary for upgrading the units that have been made. The first loan is provided under the scheme to develop new units, and it is for manufacturing and services sector. But now second loan could also be provided for upgrading the units. Next, there is merger of Koir Udyami Yojana with the current scheme. The third is the introduction of concurrent monitoring and evaluation. Also there is mandatory Aadhaar and PAN card linking is required by the beneficiaries in order to properly monitor and evaluate the utilization of funds provided by the government. Fourth is the geotagging of units, so that there is proper monitoring on a real-time basis, or you can say we are here using the technology or the digital technology to be specific. Then the negative list under the scheme has been amended, which will allow the serving and selling of non-vegetarian foods at hotels, dhabas and non-farm linked activities, because earlier this scheme only supported self-employment activities in non-farm sectors, that is the manufacturing and services, but now slight changes have been made to allow this particular serving and selling of non-vegetarian foods at hotels and dhabas, so that here we can generate self-employment opportunities to some extent. Similarly, sixth is dispensing the ratio of 30:40 for the 3 institutions that are going to implement the scheme. For this, the funds were to be provided by each of these in this proportion, but now this has been relaxed to some extent. And the seventh change made is that the working capital component for manufacturing units has been capped to 40% of the project, and for service it has been capped to 60% of the project. Here working capital means that the expenditure that is incurred for normal functioning of the unit, for example like just administration, for the electricity, for the things like that, the water, electricity, etc. So these kind of things, the requirement of funds is called as the working capital that is required to make an organization working, while as the it has another component, that is the capital amount that is required for machineries or raw materials, etc. That is a separate head, and the working capital component is the different one. So the working capital component has been capped to 40% for manufacturing and 60% for the services sector. So here you need to learn all these changes, because this could be asked, it is a current news and with an important sector of employment generation. So it could be asked that what are the changes recently being made into the Prime Minister Employment Generation Program. So this was all for 25th to 28th Feb 2018. For more videos you can visit www.edutap.co.in. Thank you and happy learning.